One of our most popular products right now is the INFINITI QX50 for good reason. It's kind of like the perfect vehicle, the perfect size being the compact classification. It's fuel efficient, it looks good, it checks off a lot of boxes. This particular 2020 QX50, we recently took it on trade. It's a clean Carfax vehicle. This one's a little bit different kind of configuration than we find normally in our neck of the woods. This one's front wheel drive. And the big reason for that is because it originally was sold in Florida. Most of the QX50s that you find in our area or above the snow belt are all-wheel drive. Generally people like all-wheel drive and you know, climates that do encounter a little bit more snow. But definitely all-wheel drive is not necessary for everyone. In fact, our mild climate here in the Pacific Northwest is not necessary for all-wheel drive. Obviously, if you go over those snowy winter passes, you ski, maybe you live in a steep driveway that freezes over, maybe you want all-wheel drive, but you know, we have one all-wheel drive vehicle in our family, and maybe there's 1 or 2 days or maybe a week, a year where we really need all-wheel drive. But honestly, me coming from New England where people kind of are used to driving the snow, people are not used to driving the snow out here. So usually if it snows, the best thing to do is stay home because you know, a lot of people are spinning out of control. I remember watching the news, like people actually, I remember one time downtown Seattle got, you know, all this snow, and there were people trying to ride their bicycles in the snow, and obviously to disastrous consequences. I'm like, what are they doing? You can't ride a bicycle in the snow. But like I said, we're not used to snow in this climate. But luckily, we have a front wheel drive and a weighty engine over the front wheels and great traction stability control system. This thing's still okay in certain snowy conditions, you know, just like any front wheel drive vehicle. It's not going to be good as all-wheel drive. So why would you want front wheel drive versus all-wheel drive? Well, if you don't drive in the snow that much, you don't need all-wheel drive. Front wheel drive is going to be a lower price point than the comparable all-wheel drive one, so it'll be a little bit cheaper to buy a QX50 like this versus one with all-wheel drive, maybe a couple $1,000s cheaper. You're going to get a little bit better gas mileage since you don't have the drag of the all-wheel drive system that will reduce gas mileage. So this gets slightly better gas mileage than an all-wheel drive similar vehicle. And then maintenance. Since you don't have an all-wheel drive system to service, you're going to have slightly different, slightly lower maintenance costs with a front-wheel drive QX50. So maybe those are a few reasons why you'd maybe consider a front-wheel drive QX50 versus all-wheel drive. This is a 2020 LUXE clean Carfax vehicle. It's been serviced and checked by our INFINITI certified techs. Who better to buy a pre-owned INFINITI from than a new INFINITI retailer like us? We have a big panoramic sunroof to allow lots of natural light inside. It opens. Then we also have a power sunshade to dim things down in case it gets too bright. We have a nice leatherette interior, power front seats, CVT transmission offering an almost infinite amount of gear ratios. We have a stop-start button for the engine. We have a drive mode selector that will make changes to steering effort, traction, stability control settings, throttle sensitivity, so have eco, standard, sport, and personal. Nice leather up steering wheel with steering wheel paddle shifters. 26,219 miles at the time I'm making this video. Blind spot warning, forward emergency braking, forward collision warning. Lots of great safety features. 2019, the QX50 had a complete ground up redesign, so brand new platform. Pretty much a whole new vehicle for 2019. 2020, it's still got a few updates. They updated the infotainment system, so it's a clearer, crisper, higher resolution display for both the top and bottom screen. And now you have the addition of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So even though this one doesn't have navigation of Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you can have navigation on your phone and project it right there on the top screen. So we have a parking camera. The bottom screen is a tab-like interface for vehicle settings and apps. We have a drive mode selector here. You can also access the drive mode selector here as well. You can make changes to the engine and transmission, Sport, Eco, Standard. You can make changes to the steering effort. Active trace control brakes individual wheels to help the vehicle rotate better through the corners. You can shut the system on or off. Since this has a variable compression engine, we can have what we call variable engine braking. So with active engine braking, when you put this in the lower gears, it will use the engine braking to slow the vehicle down instead of the brakes. So sometimes that can save you a little bit on brake life with a system like that. Pretty cool. The steering wheel tilts and telescopes. Really nice color combination in graphite gray on graphite leatherette. The QX50 is a beautiful design. A beautiful curvaceous body. The front end styling is very reminiscent of our Q50, Q60 sedan and coupe. Two very beautiful vehicles. And even though this is a compact, you have a decent amount of space in the rear seats. The rear seats, even though this is a compact, are still relatively spacious. They recline, they slide back and forth. We have a power rear liftgate. 2019 was actually the first year power rear liftgate was available on the QX50. For some of those shorter in stature, it's hard to actually reach up here and pull down the tailgate if it's not power operated, so that was actually a must-have feature for some people. And one of the coolest aspects of the QX50 is the really cool variable compression turbocharged portion of their engine. INFINITI has been working on this technology for about 20 years. It can mechanically change the compression ratio on the fly. So for instance, if you're kind of just doing easy does it driving, you don't need all the power, it'll put the compression ratio to a 14:1 compression ratio, which will calibrate the engine for maximum fuel efficiency. But maybe you're kind of stepping on the throttle, you're driving more aggressively, maybe you have the drive mode selected in sport mode, the car can tell, it'll quickly change that compression ratio to an 8:1 compression ratio, which will calibrate the engine for maximum horsepower, which is 268 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. In fact, it makes more torque than the naturally aspirated 3.7 liter V6 this engine replaces, and it's also much more fuel efficient than the V6 it replaces as well. Well, there you have it, one beautiful example of a front-wheel drive QX50 LUXE. Thanks for watching this video, hope to see you soon, and have a wonderful day.